welcome back. It's Judi Love Bowman, aka Dr. Judi Online. Thank you for joining me as we read the 8th chapter of Peaches, Womanist Thoughts on Finding Peace, Overcoming Peril and Tapping Power. This is a great chapter, chapter 8, The Black Family. For those of you reading along with us, we're on page 201. There you will find these words. The black family is precious. I pray and believe that it will be reestablished in this generation. A black 70-something-year-old Harvard-trained female minister who spent most of her professional life working in a women's prison said to me, the black family could never be secure because our men have never been secure. I take my cue from the psalmist who said, I am still confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Psalm 27:13. I am confident that the black family, in whatever form we find it, can prosper. Since during this current time in history, most black families are headed by black women, I say, power to the peaches. Let's encourage and empower the peaches. At the same time, we can do something new. We can look at private, elite, secure matchmaking services such as BLIVY Connections and try to pray about and believe God for the best we can offer our children in terms of families. I am rather label adverse, so I am not trying to establish some black nationalist segregated society. At the same time, people are usually more comfortable with those who have something in common with them. This is the reason that Jewish dating sites, gay dating sites, or Christian dating sites have a lot of traffic and success. They have something in common. I am unapologetically black and desire and deserve to have God's best, and so do you. As an undergraduate college student at my home by the sea, Hampton University, I was very active in student activities, elected Miss Freshman, Miss Alpha Kappa Mu National Honor Society, student body president, vice president, appointed secretary, and became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. The experience of having served my student body and representing my school gave me the foundation to establish leadership skills and also a good eye for the diversity within the black race itself. I hope this experience will allow me to deposit something helpful in your life and something long-lasting in my consultations with the board members of BLIVY Connections. We have to work with what we have and make the best of our black families in whatever form they present. Since black men seem to be such a threat to the establishment, women, peaches, and genderqueer need to step up and try to fill in the gaps. Although some genderqueer black men appear to be less threatening to the establishment, most black men, black people, are still considered to be niggers, invisible, inferior, unethical, up to something, and the list continues. Even as powerful as President Barack Obama was, Larry Wilmore's show was canceled after referring to the most brilliant and beloved president in history as my nigga. Larry Wilmore, the black former host of the nightly show on Comedy Central, began his routine at the 2016 White House Correspondents' Dinner by dubbing President Obama's opening act and his own Negro Night. After a very touching description of what it meant to see the first black man in the White House, Wilmore let it go when he nervously said, words alone do me no justice. So if I'm going to keep it 100, yo, Barry, you did it, my nigga. End quote. According to HuffPost.com, former White House staffer Van Jones called Wilmore's comments disgraceful. And social media lit up like a Christmas tree. I understand when we use the word nigga in jest with one another behind closed doors or use it in lyrics. However, when another black man is so disrespectful to the commander-in-chief, father-in-chief, husband-in-chief, we have a lot of work to do on the black family in America. Wilmore should have honored President Obama at the very public dinner and perhaps been more playful with the word nigga in a private conversation with the president. Anyone can be a backseat driver, and I cannot judge Will Moore. In any case, we have more consequential things to ponder, plan, and pray about. Mothers and motherfuckers. No matter how great or horrible, hardworking or lazy, good or evil, for the most part, black mothers are basically worshipped in the black community. Your mama jokes, not your daddy jokes, your mama jokes have been the genesis of many fights. I was not even close to my mother, but one day on the playground of Hampton Institute non-graded laboratory school, Tanya Thomas said, "Your daddy is bald-headed and your mama does not go to church." The truth hurts. Tanya had beaten me nearly every week at school, but that day when she said my mother didn't go to church, I was crushed. Mother's Day and mothers' funerals are held in such high regard in most communities. However, since most black families are headed by matriarchs, it is even more central to African American culture. I mentioned earlier that I heard a speech on Facebook where Minister Louis Farrakhan said, quote, "Motherfuckers is your favorite word," end quote. This related to the notion that we often treat our men as babies and our sons as our husbands. Since we fuck our husbands, the word motherfucker seems appropriate if you catch the photo drama. We need to learn how to love our sons while teaching them to be independent, confident, capable, hardworking leaders. We can begin by taking our cue from Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, who urges us in his book, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, Volume 2, as a black people, to develop responsibility in black boys. Since the majority of black boys are reared in homes where there is no father, some schools find it effective to employ blacks, mostly female, qualified or not, to serve in senior administrative positions. One black church pastor who also serves as a resource teacher in an inner city high school says that he observed that black boys respond better to direction from black females because it is what they are used to. They're used to taking direction from a mother, grandmother, church mother, female deputy, or some other black female authority figure. As Kunjufu points out, quote, "An important factor determining the future of black boys is predicated on female teachers, especially white teachers," end quote. He goes on to argue that since Brown versus Topeka of 1954, desegregation has brought more black boys than ever in contact with white females. Of course, since 1954, there has been an increase in black teachers, female and male. However, it is no secret that many white female teachers choose not to teach black children because of the physical fear of black boys and the emotional fear of black girls after the first or second grade. I give my respect and appreciation to the white and black teachers, male and female, who commute to less advantaged, usually black parts of America, to work tirelessly and earnestly to educate our public school children. By third grade, tall black boys become perceived as a threat to the white teacher, who is only half a generation removed from the fear of the black male rapist. Her honor and her safety are at stake. At one parent-teacher conference, our then 10th grade son had a teacher who said she would often be in tears at the end of some of her classes. By the next teachers' conference, she had resigned. It is this reason, coupled with poor prenatal care, infrequency of breastfeeding, insufficient diet, low expectations, low self-esteem, racism, racial and gender profiling, irregular schedules, and lack of access to and lack of emphasis on the educative experience, that a disproportionate number of black boys are tracked or placed in special education classes or labeled with a mental or behavioral disorder. In some cases, disrespectful or unparented black boys become statistics. Disrespectful is a subjective term. Some black children are not necessarily disrespectful. There are times when lack of exposure to whites and or professionals and negative thoughts about self present as being disrespectful. People act a certain way because of the way they feel about themselves. For example, I heard one man laugh and say, when my son graduated, he ran across the stage hollering, "See, Daddy, I told you I would make it. I told you, I told you." I asked, why would he say that to you? He said he told his son every day, "You'll never graduate. You will never graduate." If the young man heard this daily, he could have felt unworthy or even unworthy of even speaking to a teacher, police officer, judge, district attorney, or guidance counselor. His father loves him. He just didn't know how to communicate with and encourage his son. He just didn't know how. He never had a father, and his mother called him the man of the house. He had to model something he had never experienced. He did the best he could, as I am sure his mother did before him. I have observed that there are many black mothers, heads of household, who love their children but are so underexposed and so close to slavery and the disunity and self-hatred that came along with it that they do not expect much from life, their children, their children's fathers, America, or themselves. This theory played itself out when I saw a mother on the news in Lynchburg, Virginia. Yes, that is the actual name of that city, Lynchburg, who was saying that her son was not going to take a standardized test the following week. She said, quote, "He's not ready, so I'm not going to let him take it," end quote. The shady camera person focused on this mother's fingernails and teeth as if to highlight hygiene challenges. The camera person also focused on her son's school records. I could see where the son was reported to be disrespectful on his records. I am not blaming the mother for anything. However, if her son goes to school with the cleanliness that she presented, the children will tease him. If the son has the mother's preparation, interest, and opinions about testing, he will not want to test either. At the same time, as we discussed, some white teachers and school administrators are uncomfortable around and sometimes fearful of black boys after grade 2. If the student is not clean, is disinterested, growing taller, is ill-prepared, black, poor, lacking encouragement from home, called disrespectful at school, and has a white female teacher who may be fearful or uncomfortable, what chance does he have? What chance does he have? As mothers, none of us is perfect, but when God blesses us with motherhood, we have a full-time job to do. The job has very little to do with money and resources and everything to do with having the one primary attachment figure be supportive, consistent, loving, encouraging, and optimistic. I have read where several social scientists suggest that they keep black boys in special education, often medicated, where the student-teacher ratio is less threatening, until they can put them in a juvenile detention camp or prison cell. Also, I have personally witnessed a black mother, grandmother, or foster mother keep a child from graduating in order to continue the government assistance, which in some cases ceases at high school graduation. I can understand why women in the workplace are blamed for the demise of the black family when many children are being reared by homemakers on public assistance who may not value it, but have the luxury of being home to breastfeed and spend quality time tutoring, preparing healthy meals, and teaching values to their children. Time is something money cannot buy. I am reminded of Barbara, a welfare queen whose daughter is also a welfare queen, who complained that her daughter is in bed each morning when her 4 children have to be ready for school. One of the special needs boys, she said, was in the rain, wet, in his wheelchair at the bus stop. This type of parental situation has nothing at all to do with mothers in the workplace and everything to do with the young people staying up all night on the telephone and social media. It has everything to do with valuing the children's clothing rather than the preparation, confidence, and experiences associated with learning. Some will keep their children home because they do not have a hair system. So when they get back to school, they have a nice hairdo, but have no idea what is going on in class. Regardless of what history says of the black family, we can make a difference. one heart at a time, one home at a time. No matter what type of family and family values we come from, the greatest contribution we can make to society is our children. We can present society with God-fearing, honest, stable, happy children. Parenting. None of us is perfect. Consequently, none of us is a perfect parent. Children do not come with instructions other than the Holy Bible. A child is who the primary attachment figure, i.e. mother, father, nanny, step-parent, grandparent, foster parent, gang leader, social worker, etc. makes them. A child is who the primary attachment figure makes them. With so many blended families, step-parents have a critical role to play in the parenting plan. They can help with reinforcement, be a support and an ally to the child, and remember not to have unrealistic expectations about closeness. I heard a preacher say, children are like boards. Whomever or whatever hammers the most, the longest and the hardest, makes the greatest impact on them. When I studied human development and psychology with Jerry Lesser, one of Sesame Street's founders, for a year in his children's television courses, I learned that children go through certain developmental benchmarks where they reach certain levels of understanding. The neocortex allows them to predict consequences. This is the last part of the brain that grows. Until the brain is finished growing, children need our adult guidance. What our parents taught us about being a parent is also critical. This no way excuses behavior because of a reckless or absentee parent. Whether the lesson is unconditional love, abandonment, security, excellence, integrity, humility, or something else, the parents are the first teachers. The home is the first classroom. Without judgment and blame, I do believe that sometimes we find better examples of how to navigate this world by those parents who may not necessarily be our own. Emphasizing the preeminence of spiritual relationships, Jesus said, quote, "Here are my mother and brothers. Whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother," end quote. Mark chapter 3, verses 34 and 35. The focus of the Dr. Thinkenshine book and products is on impacting young people, parenting, and honing consciences and creating empathy in our children. Occupy Your Mind with Dr. Thinkenshine, an alphabetized discussion guide for young people and those who love them, is designed to assist primary attachment figures in discussing more than 200 critical topics. The goal is to talk to our children rather than talk about our children. Children deserve to be loved, protected, and cherished. I do not want you to become sensitized to the point where you overreact, but the following signs of child neglect should catch our attention. Number 1, inappropriate dress. Number 2, lack of supervision. Number 3, poor hygiene. Number 4, unattended medical and physical needs. Number 5, underweight or overweight. Number 6, abandonment. And number 7, hunger. Even with the best, most loving parents, we all make mistakes. Some mistakes have far greater consequences once law enforcement and the government gets involved. I heard someone say, "You may make a mistake, but you are not a mistake." Everyone who knows me knows that I respect law enforcement. In fact, I served as a police cadet and was promoted to the president of the Hampton Police Law Enforcement Explorer Post. Leo Flabat, Carl Hornberger, P.G. Minetti, and Alan Collins are men I volunteered for in police departments and jails in Virginia, Florida, and Texas. I am thankful for their leadership. I pray for and wish the best to each person who serves in police and sheriff departments throughout America. With that being said, let me set an historical context. Historically, police officers were slave catchers and kidnappers. Sometimes it seems as if they were used in history as the government's arm to arrest, confound, and kill people. Today, it seems as if we can add revenue collectors to the list. When I mention revenue collectors, I'm thinking of court costs, probation parole fees, parenting class fees, anger management fees, and other ways in which the government profits from parenting and policing, not always protecting black and poor people. Often black men are arrested, brutalized, and killed just for being black. This, among other things, left a gap in the parenting plan for the black race and the black family. There is an economy around the government rearing our children, i.e. supervised visitation, parenting classes, foster care, home evaluations, drug testing, etc. Another gap in the parenting plan is black boys and men shooting and killing each other. There were 100 shootings in Chicago during the 2017 July 4th holiday alone. When we kill each other, does it give others permission to kill us? Alice Walker writes about choosing to stay at home 10 years after the March on Washington. She calls part of the movement a step backwards as she reported news from black movements in the North. I think this is where I am stuck too. I am torn. I'm a throwback, a homemaker first. It is one of my callings. I believe that the home should be a place of peace and rest where children and families feel safe, loved, wanted, and stable. Someone has to be in the home in order to hone a conscience, create rituals, set schedules and expectations, and provide unconditional love. In fact, a movement backward from the equalitarian goals of the 60s seems a facet of nationalistic groups. Barbara Sizemore wrote in The Black Scholar, quote, "The nationalist woman cannot create or initiate. Her main life's goal is to inspire and encourage man and his children. Sisters in this movement must beg for permission to speak and function as servants to men, their masters and leaders, as teachers and nurses." Their position is similar to that of the Sisters in the Nation of Islam. When Baraka is the guiding spirit at national conferences, only widows and wives of black martyrs, such as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and Queen Mother Moore, can participate. Other women are excluded, end quote. This was heartbreaking then, and it is heartbreaking now, especially for those of us who have worked tirelessly in the struggle for a solid home life, a more just black community, and a more just America. Alice Walker said, "I know that Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, or Fannie Lou Hamer, or Mrs. Winston Hudson would simply ignore the assumption that permission to speak could be given them and would fight on for freedom of all people, tossing white-only signs and male-only signs in the same trash heap." Latchkey kids. Nice house, no one home. Children need to have at least one person in their figurative corner. Over 160,000 children skip school daily. Even more are bullied. They need someone to decompress with when they come home, aside from electronic media. Even if a child is a car rider to and from school, those commutes are times where valuable discourse can redirect a child's life. Sometimes simply listening or simply being is enough. I believe that it does not necessarily have to be the woman or mother who is the primary attachment figure, but it is essential for every child to have at least one consistent, reliable, loving attachment figure. Every person, every child wants to belong to something and someone. Dr. Thinkenshine argues that the home is the first and most important place of impact for children. One boy who had been incarcerated 20 years ago said, "Jail used to be fun," he explained. "All of my friends were there. We could smoke and we didn't have to work." Sometimes shared experiences or experiences of belonging establish intimacy. We want our children to belong and be intimate in the home rather than in the gangs, street life, or criminal justice system. It sounds complicated, but we have the power. Someone once said, "She who rocks the cradle rules the world." After desegregation, many black women had to work so that the black families would not starve. Even when we work outside of the home, we can have expectations and goals for our children and families. I have a relative who has a great aunt who was given as a wedding gift from white parents to their son and his wife. Although this aunt neither married nor had a family of her own, she had the stability of food and shelter and a sense of purpose, which was a step above slavery. This takes us back full circle to the argument for reparations. Blacks were free, but free to what? If a woman was single, she sometimes had to give her life for the service and comfort of white children and families at the expense of her own life. To work outside of the home or not to work, in many cases, was not an option. Survival depended upon it. I say special prayers for those peaches who are neither able to be a parent nor able to work outside of the home. For a number of reasons, many black children are parented by foster parents. I pray for those households and for those children who are 19 and 20 and have aged out of the foster care system. Although spending the first 8 years living on the campus of Hampton University in a historically black college, attending a black Presbyterian church, and being somewhat shielded from the real integrated world, I understand that the situation among black families, economically and socially, was deteriorating. I remember participating in the Black Family Conferences at Hampton Institute. Just as the audience for this book, the audiences for many such well thought out, perfectly implemented conferences resulted in preaching to the choir. This is why it is critical for us to engage in multifaceted, holistic approaches, i.e. music, reality TV, social media, print, film, art, rap, etc., to reach this generation and the next generation with the message of upward mobility, unity, order, faith, justice, peace, equality, parity, love, more love. In the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, by the 70s, the Freedmen's Bureau had become a dead letter. Black men and women were being driven out of certain vocations that non-degreed white people needed and desired. From what I understand, the economic struggle became violent. Paula Giddings describes the tension, quote, black women not only had to work as they had in slavery, but also would have to take up arms for the defense of the race when whites threatened to regain power at the end of Reconstruction in Charleston, South Carolina. A witness reported seeing black women carrying axes in their hands, hanging down their sides, half concealing the weapons. The black women's increasing responsibilities did not diminish the black man's need to dominate her, in most cases. An Alabama newspaper reported an increase in domestic abuse in 1868, the same year General Samuel Chapman Armstrong founded Hampton Institute, now Hampton University. Sometimes it seems that the harder the black man had it in the streets, the harder the black woman had it in the home. Alcohol combined with rage was and is a dangerous combination. Singer Michel'le described the way the police brutalized her men. Her men, in turn, brutalized her. I pray that each child can be born into a nonviolent, loving, safe home. As you are well aware, caring for our children begins long before they are born. Prenatal care and breastfeeding. We are fortunate to be able to live in an era where we have access to medical care and medical education. One Southern black 88-year-old told stories about having all 15 of her children born in her home. She said she was 14 years old, went off with a boy, and 2 weeks later began to feel sick when she was chopping tobacco. There was no welfare, no money for hospitals, she told me. I had no medicine, no doctor, just a midwife who went from house to house. Since the brain develops the most within the first 3 years of life, it is critical to make a plan to breastfeed. Breast milk is for children, cow's milk is for cows. In order to give the baby good milk, the mother has to eat good food, drink plenty of water, keep up with her prenatal care, and abstain from alcohol and drugs. In the next section, we discuss marriage. It may seem out of order to discuss prenatal care and breastfeeding before marriage because historical order is first comes love, Then comes marriage. Then comes the baby in the baby carriage. However, as one black senior citizen told me, all we have in our family is baby showers. No weddings, just baby showers. I pray that each baby can be showered with love from both of his or her parents. Marriage. I discuss marriage after discussing prenatal and breastfeeding because with 75% of black children being reared in single-parent homes, as my sister Peach reminded us, we have more baby showers than we do weddings. Many of us do not even know what a functioning relationship looks like. One thing I have learned through my marriage is that wholeness starts with love and humility, not with being right. I would also reemphasize the fact that we get disappointed and upset with ourselves, so you know we will feel the same about a partner. I believe God hates divorce and separation. It is especially difficult when children are involved. If there is a safety or life-death situation, however, I know God wants us to be safe. No one is perfect. Let's just try to do better. Each generation can do better. Some black men feel insecure because they feel as if they have nothing to offer. We need to show our black men that we care and be patient with them. Since so many black men and boys are incarcerated and with so many black women are single parents, family planning is essential for the peach orchards of the future. There are other highly specialized matchmaking services, i.e. those specific to farmers, Jewish people, LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and questioning, cheaters, etc. So it is wonderful to introduce BLIVY Connections. BLIVY, Black Ivy Connections, is a newly formed private exclusive service for African American blacks who either have Ivy League backgrounds, bank accounts, and/or ambitions, looking for love. School. Although not all outside influences are bad, what we do not do in the home, the streets. Although all outside influences are not bad, what we do not do in the home, the streets, i.e. media, gangs, cults, predators, etc., will do. So what we do not do in the home, the streets will do. Everyone wants to belong and be fed. In many communities after integration, gangs took the place of families. The streets took the place of home life. The vice lords, bloods, crips, gangsters, disciples, sex, money, murder, and other groups have a role to play in this overground revolution. A wonderful model is the Mighty 13 in Ferguson, Missouri, who came together to serve as community leaders to make a difference. They teach children to respect each other, have a 24-hour hotline for mothers, and teach about how to avoid gangs. The whole Willie Lynch school of thought, combined with the heavy sports or team subculture in America, causes many groups to be true enemies. It is a bit different with the Black Greeks, the Divine nine sororities and fraternities founded beginning in 1906, where we all do the same things: scholarship, community service, excellence, etc. During the 2016 Baltimore riots, CNN reported that Zeta Phi Beta, a Black Greek organization, was a gang, when in fact they are part of the Divine Nine. To the outside world, Zeta Phi Beta, degreed Black Greeks, are no different than street gangs. In fact, we are no different. Each part of the body, community, has a function if we are to move forward. You may hear young black people in the beauty store or corner store calling the lady who sells them noodles for $3 or sell them some hair. You may hear them calling her ma. We all want to belong, and we all want to eat. Although the home is the primary location for belonging and being fed, the school is a good place to do both. With the introduction of so many television channels and so many technological advancements, media has become prominent in the home, classroom, vehicles, airplanes, and even our telephones. This, my friends, ends the reading of Chapter 8, the family, the critical family, chapter on the Black family, in Peaches, Womanist Thoughts on Finding Peace, Overcoming Peril, and Tapping Power. And as you know, I used as a resource for this chapter the best-selling ebook Occupy Your Mind with Dr. Thinkenshine, an alphabetized discussion guide for young people and those who love them. And Dr. Thinkenshine, who's been billed as the modern day Dr. Seuss, has two 20-booklet series that help children since the publication of this book. One is called the Dr. Thinkenshine series. Send your child to heaven, happiness, Harvard, and health. And no, it's not a gimmick. It's just send your child to heaven. We want our children to be saved and go to heaven. Happiness, yes, we want them to be happy in spite of what's going on in the world. Harvard is just a symbol for them reaching their lifelong goals. Whether it's Harvard, whether it's Hampton, an historically black college, a community college, whether it's homemaking or working with their hands, whatever God's will is for their life. And then health. We want them to have good health. So there are 20 books in this series. Some of them named Treasures in the Trap. Even if you're in a trap, you are a treasure. Monroe Goes to Harvard, about planning and college preparation. The Store by the Shore, teaching children you don't have to steal at the store by the shore, even if you're poor. Soap on a Rope, teaching us about hygiene. Tyrell Visits Jail. There's no family that's untouched. Pray with Bay and Lorraine. Then we have a book on Papa's Casket in My Basket, about teaching children about death and dying and eternal life. There are 20 books in that series. And since there is a separation between church and state, the Dr. Thinkenshine series is based in the Bible. The Dr. Thinkenshine Goes to School series has a lot more, there's no Bible verses in it. And we want kids to be saved. But we talk, some of the books in this series are Water, 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 in that order. Teaching children to drink good, healthy water. Lulu Says Thank You, about manners. Plan Ahead, Fred. And There's a Clock in My Sock, teaching children about time management. The Kangaroo's Blue Shoe, teaching children everything has a place, how to find things. The Chair with Big Hair, talking to children about people who have chemotherapy or children who have to wear wigs to school. Kim Swim. More than 70% of black children cannot swim. That's encouraging children to swim. And Dogs Don't Divorce, which is a great book of teaching children about divorce. And there's several others. Your Best on Each Test, Tammy's Day Off, My Feelings Matter. Maxie Learns to Take Turns. Are You Going to School this year, Zoe dear? Fruit in My Boot. Sammy's Clothes Have Holes. Omar is Hungry and Right Even at Night, teaching children about how to have good character even if no one's looking. So these are just 40 books, 20 in each series from the Dr. Thinkenshine series. I hope you enjoyed reading chapter 8 with me on the black family. And I pray God will bless you and your family. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and give you peace, power, and love. More love. Boost. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord.